Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I work at a hotel at the front desk. I'm not going to name the hotel because it's irrelevant. Yesterday, we had a guest checking in. It was just him and his wife. I repeat, just one man and one woman. Basic math. What does 1 plus 1 equal to? 2. The day before his check-in, I had to call him to let him know that both of our presidential suites were unfortunately booked, and we would have to switch him to an executive suite. King, it's a big room. He got very upset. He yelled at me through the phone and said that he has a right to his presidential suite. He really did call the presidential suite his. He asked me why he couldn't have what was his, and I told him that both suites had been booked since last year and that they wouldn't check out until November 2025. He literally told me to move those guests to a different room. Again, I told him I couldn't do that. And again, he started yelling and using offensive language, saying that he paid for a presidential suite. I agreed that wasn't fair, so I lowered the nightly rate to $99 for the inconvenience. I checked his reservation to make the changes and… oh wait, he was only staying for one night. One night. After I lowered the price, and keep this in mind, he was still staying in a suite, so he got a major discount. His balance went from $150 to $99. My manager really didn't want any problems that day. Instead of saying thank you or I appreciate it, he says, "It should be lower since you caused me so much stress. But whatever, I guess I'll just take it. You're useless anyway." The next day he checked in with his wife. I greeted them and asked under what name he was checking in. He stood there and threw his ID and credit card at me. He then kept talking with his wife about how he got downgraded because we were foolish and that we just don't know how important he is. Then he asked me again to move him to his presidential suite and proceeded to ask me who took the presidential suite from him. I cancelled his reservation after that and asked security to escort him out. He was resisting though. He kept demanding the suite and his wife was just nodding and yelling with him. Long story short, he got banned from the hotel. It was just the audacity for me. So ridiculous, I swear. I'm a 23-year-old recent college graduate, and I've been living with my grandparents for the past few months. After finishing college, I was struggling to find a job in my field and couldn't afford an apartment of my own. My grandparents generously offered to let me stay with them while I got on my feet. At first, I was hesitant. I didn't want to be a burden, and I worried it might be awkward living with them as an adult. But they insisted, saying they'd love the company. Plus, their house was huge. A beautiful old Victorian with plenty of space for all of us. What I didn't realize at the time was that my grandparents weren't your average retirees. Sure, they seemed like normal, sweet old folks on the surface, but there was a lot more to their past than I knew. It was a quiet Tuesday night when everything went down. I was in my room working on job applications when I heard a loud crash downstairs. At first, I thought maybe Grandpa had dropped something in the kitchen, but then I heard unfamiliar voices, and my blood ran cold. I crept to the top of the stairs and peered down into the darkness. What I saw made my heart stop. There was a man in a ski mask, holding a gun to my grandmother's head. My grandfather stood a few feet away, his hands raised. The intruder says, "Where is the jewelry box, old man? And don't you try anything funny or the old lady gets it." I was frozen in terror, unsure what to do. Should I call the police, try to sneak out and get help? But then I noticed something odd. My grandfather didn't look scared. In fact, he seemed almost bored. Now, young man. There is no need for all this drama. Why don't you put that gun down and we can talk about this reasonably? The intruder says, "Shut up. I'm not here to talk. Show me where you keep the valuables or I'll blow her brains out." I couldn't believe how calm my grandfather was. Didn't he realize the danger they were in? But then I remembered something my mother had once mentioned offhandedly. Something about my grandmother's past career. Could it be true? Grandmother says, "Honey, why don't you show this nice young man where we keep the good silver? I'm sure that would make him very happy." Her voice was steady, almost playful. I couldn't see her face from where I was hiding, but I could picture the glint in her eyes. And that's when I knew the stories were true. My sweet cookie-baking grandmother really had been a secret agent. Of course, dear. Right this way, sir. My grandfather started leading the intruder towards the study, my grandmother still at gunpoint. I held my breath, wondering what was about to happen, and that's when everything changed in an instant. Quick as lightning, my grandmother spun around. Before the intruder could even blink, she had disarmed him and was holding his own gun to his head. The look of shock on his face was almost comical. Now then, young man, I think it's time we had a little chat about manners, don't you? What the? How did you? Didn't your mother ever teach you it's rude to interrupt? Now hands behind your back if you please. To my amazement, the would-be robber meekly complied. My grandfather calmly walked over and used his own belt to tie the man's hands. I'll go call the police, dear. Would you like me to put on some tea while we wait? That would be lovely, thank you. I finally found my voice and came stumbling down the stairs. Grandma, Grandpa, are you okay? What just happened? Oh, hello, sweetie. Did we wake you? I'm so sorry about that. We're just having a bit of unexpected company. Lady, you're insane. Let me go. Now, there is no need for name calling. Why don't you sit tight and wait for the authorities to arrive? And to my utter disbelief, my grandmother actually made the guy sit down on a couch. She kept the gun trained on him, her eyes never leaving his face. Grandma, how did you do that? Where did you learn to disarm someone like that? Oh, that? Just a little trick I picked up years ago. Did I ever tell you about the time I spent working for the government? You mean it's true? You really were a secret agent? Well, I wouldn't say a secret agent exactly, more like an intelligence officer with some specialized training. But that was a long time ago. Wait, what? You're telling me I tried to rob a freaking spy? Former intelligence officer to be precise. Tea's ready, dear. Are you people for real? I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation. Here we were having a polite conversation while holding an intruder at gunpoint. Just then, we heard sirens approaching. The intruder slumped in defeat. Great, my life is over. Well, young man, perhaps you'll think twice before trying something like this again. The police arrived and took the intruder into custody. As they led him out, I turned to my grandparents in awe. I can't believe what just happened. Grandma, you were amazing. Oh, pish posh. I just did what needed to be done. Now, who wants cookies? All this excitement has made me peckish. As we sat in the kitchen munching on fresh baked cookies at 2 a.m., I realized there was so much I didn't know about my grandparents. Grandpa says, I always did love watching your grandmother in action. Reminded me of why I fell in love with her in the first place. Oh, you charmer. I just hope this incident hasn't scared our granddaughter too much. Are you kidding? I've never felt safer. Although I do have about a million questions now, and I'll be happy to answer them, dear. But perhaps we should all try to get some sleep first? It's been quite a night. My boring summer living with my grandparents had suddenly become a lot more interesting, and I had a feeling there were plenty more surprises in store. My husband Liam and I have always been the helpful types. We're the ones our friends call when they need a hand moving or someone to watch their pets. It's just who we are. But this time, our kindness has put us in a real pickle. Let me back up a bit. Liam and I have been married for 5 years now. We bought our cozy little house 3 years ago. It's nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom place with a small yard. Perfect for us and our 3 cats, Whiskers, Mittens, and Grumpy. Yeah, he lives up to his name. We're not trolling in dough, but we're comfortable. We've always been into board games. Liam especially. He's part of this weekly board game group at the local game store. That's where he met Clyde. Nice enough guy, always talking about his big plans and ideas. Clyde's wife, Bonnie, would sometimes tag along. She seemed sweet, if a bit clingy to Clyde. Anyway, about a month ago, Liam and I were planning our first real vacation in years. A week-long trip to the beach. Nothing extravagant, but we were excited. The only hitch was finding someone to watch our cats, especially Grumpy. He needs daily medication and well, he's not the friendliest cat to strangers. That's when Clyde mentioned he and Bonnie needed a place to stay in our city for a convention and some job interviews. It seemed perfect. They'd have a free place to stay and we'd have someone to watch the cats. Win-win, right? So off we went on our vacation. Sun, sand, and no responsibilities for a whole week. It was bliss, but little did we know we were coming back to a nightmare. When we got home, Clyde and Bonnie were still there. No big deal, we thought. They probably needed an extra day or two to wrap things up, but then they dropped the bomb. Hey guys, welcome back. How was the trip? Clyde asks. It was great, thanks. How did everything go here? Bonnie says, oh, it was fine. The cats were good. Even Grumpy warmed up to us eventually. Clyde says, yeah, about that. We were wondering if we could maybe stay a bit longer. Depending on how the job search goes. Liam says, oh, sure. How much longer were you thinking? Well, we were hoping for maybe 3 months. I nearly choked on my coffee. 3 months? In our tiny house? With our temperamental cats? I looked at Liam and I could see he was just as shocked. 3 months? That's a long time. We weren't really prepared for long term guests. Oh, but it would be so helpful. Clyde's got some promising leads and I might have a job lined up. We just need a little time to get on our feet. I don't know. Come on, man. We're in a tight spot here. You guys are our only hope. I could see Liam wavering. He's always had a hard time saying no to friends. I jumped in before he could agree to something crazy. How about we start with 1 month? That should give you some time to figure things out. Clyde and Bonnie exchanged a look, then nodded. That would be great. Thank you so much. So here we are a week into their stay, and I'm losing my mind. Our living room has become their bedroom. There is stuff everywhere, clothes, job application papers, snack wrappers, and Liam's irritation is growing by the day. Did you see they left another half-empty soda can on the coffee table? And there are crumbs all over the couch. I know. It's frustrating, but it's only for a few more weeks, right? Wrong. Yesterday, Bonnie approached me while I was trying to work. Hey, I was thinking, just a few days after the month is up, would it be okay if we stayed until then? It would mean so much to me. I wanted to scream. Instead, I took a deep breath. Bonnie, I'm sorry, but we really need our space back. I had some big projects coming up, and I need to use a living room to prepare. But it's my birthday. You wouldn't kick us out right before my birthday, would you? The guilt trip was a last straw. I realized that they had no intention of leaving anytime soon. They were taking advantage of our kindness, and it was time to put a stop to it. Look, Bonnie, we agreed to a month. That's already a big favor. We can't extend it any further. You and Clyde need to have a plan to move out by the end of the month. Bonnie's face fell, and she stormed off to find Clyde. I could hear them whispering angrily in the living room. A few minutes later, Clyde came to find me. Hey, what's the big idea? We thought you guys were our friends. You know we don't have anywhere else to go, right? I'm sorry, you're in a tough situation, Clyde, but that's not our responsibility. We've been more than generous. Well, what if we just refuse to leave? You can't just throw us out on the street. And that's when I lost it. Actually, we can. If you try to stay past the agreed date, we will. Liam and I know several lawyers who specialize in evictions. If you force our hand, we will sue them. And trust me, you don't want that on your record when you're job hunting. Clyde's face went pale. He mumbled something and retreated to the living room. The next day, Bonnie and Clyde announced they had found a small studio apartment they could afford. Funny how that happened so quickly when they realized we weren't going to be pushovers. They moved out exactly 1 month after we returned from our vacation. As they were loading their car, I felt relieved because we had our house back, and disappointed because friends we trusted tried to take advantage of us. Liam and I are still willing to help friends, but now we understand the need to set clear boundaries and stick to them. If someone tries to cross those boundaries, we won't hesitate to stop them immediately. Me and my best friend Joshua have known each other since elementary school, and he's always been the one to come up with the coolest ideas for celebrations. This year he decided to have his party at Urban Air, this awesome trampoline park that recently opened in our town. I was pretty excited about it, not just because of the trampolines, but also because they had this new virtual reality setup. I've been saving up for weeks to get the platinum ticket that included VR access. My parents aren't exactly rolling in cash, so I had to mow lawns and walk dogs all summer to afford it. When Saturday finally rolled around, I met with Joshua and our other friends at the park. We started off bouncing around, trying out different areas and just having a blast. After a while, I convinced two of my buddies, Mike and Chris, to check out the VR station with me. We got suited up and started playing this intense zombie survival game. Man, it was incredible. I felt like I was actually fighting for my life in a post-apocalyptic world. We were about halfway through when Joshua and the rest of our group showed up. Hey guys, how's the VR? Joshua asks. It's insane. You gotta try this. We finished up our game and gathered around the VR station, chatting excitedly about our experience. And that's when I noticed this kid, probably around 8 or 9, hovering nearby and looking at the VR headsets longingly. He says, I want to go first. I figured he was talking about the VR, so I decided to be nice and let him know we were done. We're not playing anymore. You can go. The kid walked away, and we went back to our conversation. Joshua was suggesting we play hide and seek next, which sounded fun. We were just working out the rules when this woman stormed up to us, dragging the kid from earlier by his arm. He would like to do this because we paid for it. Her voice wasn't exactly yelling, but it was sharp and rude. We all kind of froze, not sure how to react. Joshua, always a level-headed one, pointed to a sign next to the VR station. He said, Please wait for staff for VR. Do you work here? Now, this is where it got really ridiculous. Joshua was wearing all black, a t-shirt and jeans. The staff at Urban Air all wear bright lime green shirts and have walkie-talkies. It was pretty obvious he didn't work there. No, you should have said that from the start. As she turned on her heel and marched away, still gripping her son's arm. We couldn't help ourselves. We all flipped her off as she left. Maybe it wasn't the most mature thing to do, but man, it felt good. After she was gone, we all just looked at each other in disbelief. Did that really just happen? What a psycho. I can't believe she thought Joshua worked there. I know, right? Do I look like I'm wearing a lime green shirt? We all burst out laughing, the tension breaking. But I couldn't help feeling a bit sorry for the kid. It wasn't his fault his mom was such a Karen. You know what? I'm gonna talk to the staff about that kid. He seemed pretty excited about the VR. I walked over to one of the employees and explained the situation. They were really cool about it and said they'd keep an eye out for the kid to make sure he got a turn soon. When I got back to my friends, they were all grinning at me. Look at you, being irresponsible and stuff. Shut up. I just didn't want that kid's day to be ruined because his mom's a jerk. Speaking of ruined days, are we still on for hide and seek? And just like that, we were back to having fun. We spent the next hour playing the most epic game of hide and seek ever. I managed to find the perfect hiding spot behind some foam blocks and won the first round. As we were wrapping up our game, I spotted the kid from earlier, grinning from ear to ear as he put on a VR headset. His mom was nowhere in sight, probably off complaining to some other poor soul. I caught the eye of the staff member I'd talked to earlier, and they gave me a thumbs up. Joshua came up beside me, following my gaze. Looks like your good deed paid off. Yeah, I guess it did. You know, for a minute there, I thought that Karen was going to ruin my birthday. Are you kidding? If anything, she made it more memorable. We'll be laughing about this for years. True. Hey, wanna go try the Ninja Warrior course? You're on. In the end, sure, we'd had a run-in with an entitled parent, but it hadn't ruined our day. If anything, it had brought us closer together. And who knows, maybe that kid would remember the cool teenagers who helped him get a turn at VR instead of his mom's behavior. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.